The hook. In the year 2000, one company was a global giant with 9,000 stores, and the other was a tiny money-losing startup operating out of a small office. That startup offered to sell itself to the giant for just $50 million. The giant's CEO practically laughed them out of the room. Today, that startup, Netflix, is worth over $250 billion. The giant, Blockbuster, has only one store left on Earth. This is the story of the single worst business decision of the 21st century. Segment 2. The King of Friday Night. To understand the mistake, you have to understand the power Blockbuster held. In the 90s, they weren't just a store. They were a cultural institution. The Friday night ritual of walking the aisles, grabbing popcorn and candy. They owned family entertainment. Their business model was simple: rent movies, and more importantly, collect revenue from a source everyone hated: late fees. In 2000 alone, Blockbuster made $800 million from late fees. That was 16% of their total revenue. This was their golden goose, and it would become their fatal flaw. Their blue and yellow signs were beacons of entertainment, a landmark in nearly every town. With an iron grip on distribution deals, they got the hottest new releases first. Their marketing budget was colossal, with iconic commercials embedding them in the public mind. They had a massive library of titles, something no small competitor could ever hope to match. Customers had no other choice, so they grudgingly paid the fees and rewound their tapes. Blockbuster's executives saw their position not just as dominant, but as unshakable. They were on top of the world, completely blind to the tectonic shift just beneath their feet. Segment 3. The annoying red envelope. Meanwhile, in California, a tech entrepreneur named Reed Hastings was fed up. The legend goes, he was hit with a $40 late fee for the movie Apollo 13. He had a radical idea. What if you could rent movies like a gym membership? A flat monthly fee, no due dates, and therefore no late fees. He launched Netflix in 1997. The model was simple: DVDs delivered by mail in iconic red envelopes. You could keep it as long as you wanted. It was a direct attack on Blockbuster's most profitable and most hated feature. But the business was hemorrhaging cash. By 2000, they were desperate. Their key innovation was the queue, a system letting users rank movies they wanted to see. When you returned a DVD, the next one on your list was automatically sent out. It was genius, but it was also a logistical nightmare for a small company. They were building a loyal, but very small base of early adopters and tech-savvy customers. But loyalty doesn't pay the bills. The costs of postage and buying thousands of DVDs were pushing them to the brink. They were projected to lose over $50 million. They had a great idea, but they were running out of time and money fast. They had one last desperate option: ask their biggest rival for a lifeline. This desperation led Reed Hastings and his team to Blockbuster's headquarters in Dallas. Segment 4. The most expensive laugh in history. Imagine the scene: the young, nervous Netflix team, in their Silicon Valley best, walking into the lion's den. A formal boardroom filled with seasoned, skeptical Blockbuster executives. Their proposal was a partnership. Netflix, the tech experts, would run Blockbuster's online brand. They presented their idea, Blockbuster.com, a seamless blend of online rentals and in-store returns. They would even phase out the Netflix name, becoming the online arm of the video giant. The price for this acquisition, for the entire company, $50 million. Blockbuster CEO John Antioco and his team struggled to keep a straight face. They saw Netflix not as an innovation, but as a tiny, niche mail-order business. Why would they buy the cow when they could get the milk for free? They figured if the internet thing took off, they could just launch their own website later and crush Netflix easily. As Reed Hastings later recalled, they just about laughed us out of their office. The offer was flatly rejected. Blockbuster saw the future as physical stores. Netflix went home empty-handed, their last hope seemingly extinguished. The Blockbuster executives likely forgot about the meeting the moment it was over. To them, it was a laughable distraction from their real business, opening more stores. They had data showing customers still preferred the in-person browsing experience. They failed to see that the model wasn't the store, but the convenience. Netflix wasn't selling DVDs by mail. They were selling no more trips to the video store. Blockbuster's entire identity was tied to their physical locations. Changing that would mean admitting their empire had an expiration date. So they doubled down on what they knew, confident in their judgment. It was a decision that sealed their fate, though they wouldn't know it for years. Segment 5. The Unraveling. That rejection lit a fire under Netflix. They went on to perfect their model and went public in 2002. They were now a force to be reckoned with. Blockbuster finally tried to compete with Blockbuster Online, but it was too little, too late. They even eliminated late fees, but it destroyed their most profitable revenue stream and confused customers. But Netflix was already a step ahead. They weren't thinking about DVDs, they were thinking about the internet. In 2007, they launched their streaming service. That was the checkmate. While Blockbuster was stuck managing dying real estate, Netflix was becoming a global entertainment powerhouse, accessible from any screen. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. The decline was shockingly fast. Store closing signs became a common sight. Blockbuster tried everything: video game rentals, selling merchandise. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, Netflix was using its data to make a revolutionary pivot. Original content. Shows like House of Cards changed the game, turning them from a distributor into a studio. They were no longer just competing with Blockbuster. They were competing with HBO. Blockbuster's brand, once a symbol of fun, became a punchline. The last corporate-owned stores closed in 2014, ending an era. The once mighty behemoth had been completely outmaneuvered. Their failure to adapt became a legendary cautionary tale taught in business schools. From 9,000 stores to one, their collapse was total and complete. Segment 6. The Legacy and the Lesson. So what was Blockbuster's fatal mistake? It wasn't just saying no to a $50 million deal. First, arrogance. They were a giant, too big to see a smaller competitor as a threat. Second, a failure to innovate. They were in the business of renting plastic tapes from expensive stores, and they refused to see a future beyond that. And most importantly, they didn't understand what business they were truly in. They thought they were in the video rental business. Netflix knew they were in the entertainment delivery business. The story of Blockbuster is a timeless warning. Adapt or die. Because somewhere, in a garage or a dorm room, A small startup is building the future.